Hi everyone, I am Murali. It doesn't matter how good your internal payment systems are. It would be equally crucial to have a good connectivity in the interbank space as well, because that defines the smooth message traffic between your and other banks. The FedNow provided a guidelines to its participants about different FedNow service profiles based on the role they opted for. Let's see how these profiles are helping these participants for a better connection with the FedNow service. Let's get into the video.
The FedNow has defined two types of profiles for any kind of participants, be it a financial institutions or a service providers. These profiles are required in terms of processing the messages within the FedNow network, or in other terms, these two profiles help any financial institutions to establish a connection and also control their message traffic using a configurable settings provided by the FedNow service. Those are the participant profile and authorized connection profile. Each defines set of settings which participants can modify as per their need. Okay, before we get more into the topic, let's try to understand the jargons in a simple language as and when we approach them. Else, it would confuse a lot. Participant means any bank or financial institution in the FedNow network. So let's consider it as a bank here so that it will be easier. Okay, let's continue. The first one is the participant profile. This defines the settings and features in the FedNow service that are enabled for each RTN of a bank. In simple terms, a bank would have an option to control the features they opted from the FedNow service because it is enabled for each routing transit number, or you can call it as an ABA code. So later on, if a bank does not want to continue a set of service for a specific RTN, they can modify the configuration, or if they want to reduce the FedNow transaction limit for any certain RTN, they can do so. But the important point is the features and settings are enabled to participants or banks by the role they chose to play. These roles are credit transfer send or receive, or credit transfer receive only, or settlement only, or liquidity management. So while enrolling to the FedNow, any bank or any financial institution would opt for any one of these. And these settings are editable by the participants in most of the cases. So you can't modify the setting that your role doesn't support. For example, let's say that you chose for a liquidity management, but suddenly you want to set a limit for customer credit transfer transaction. That is not possible because that is not allowed for your role. The next one is authorized connection profile, ACP. While the participant profile provides a functional settings, this ACP provides a technical settings for your connectivity with the FedNow service. This defines FedNow service, the connectivity settings used to access the FedNow interface and send or receive FedNow messages on behalf of one or multiple participants RTNs. Let's see this in a simple terms. When you have defined a functional features through participant profile that you are going to provide your fee to your customer. Basically, it is a role that you choose to play. Then you would need to maintain a certain technical requirements which offers a better connectivity in the interbank space. Because if you don't connect it to the bank to bank space, then how can you provide a service to your customers? Isn't it? So you would need some technical repository kind of a thing, or a system that manages and maintains these technical connectivities, and ACP is such a place where your connectivity details are maintained. This diagram shows how the FedNow profiling concepts work. You can see here both participant profile and authorized connection profile, which is nothing but an ACP. Let's understand the participant profile first. A participant profile contains a participation type, components of participation type, some optional settings, and connection party permissions. So basically, this connection party is nothing but a system that has the connectivity endpoints or queues, like you see here. A participation type is nothing but a role chose to play by a bank in a FedNow network. The second part is the components of participation type. Let's say your bank chose to play a role of customer credit transfer, send and receive, which means your banks can send both PAX8 messages and also receive the PAX8 or PAX4 messages. So in such cases, your banks are allowed to have a set of configurations like limiting the outward transactions limit. Maybe currently, let's say you have for per FedNow transaction that you have a limit of $100,000. Maybe you wanted to extend it to $200,000, or maybe you want to reduce it to $50,000. So all those things you can do using the in components of FedNow. So all those things are basically part of the components of FedNow participation type. Then comes the optional settings. These settings are include like maybe maybe participant negative list. This is nothing but a list which will contain some of the entities or even a persons or organizations, you can call it, you can name it anything. So who are all the people or entities you would think that they wanted to be restricted from using the FedNow service? It could be because of any legal reasons or any fraudulent activities they've conducted earlier, or you found this as you found them as an fraudulent entities. So you would enter their details in these settings, and they would be blocked by the FedNow and they will be blocked in your system that they cannot use the FedNow transfer further. And these connection party permissions are nothing but it will have a set of connection points, which is nothing but an MQs that actually connects with the FedNow. So by providing the permissions here, you can control and restrict the message flows to your systems. Okay, now coming back to the ACP. This is connected with the connection party. A connection party can have many connection points which will have a group of MQs like we said earlier. So all the FedNow messages are transacted using these MQs. So all the back and forth of message exchanges would be happening through these MQs. So if any bank wanted to route a traffic via any particular MQs, they can configure that here. Okay. This table explains the mandatory profile requirements for any participant, be it a financial institution or service provider. So whatever the role your financial institution chose to play in the FedNow network, they have to have these profiles in order to play that role properly, or only if they have these profiles, then only they will be allowed to participate in the FedNow network. Let's say any financial institution, let's say your bank is opted to play for a financial institution which means they are providing customer credit transfer support or even the correspondent role, and they would want to connect to FedNow network directly using their connection party, or they using some service providers connected using some service providers connection party, then they would need a participant profile and also ACP, authorized connection profile. At the same time, if the financial institution is just chose to play a role of service provider, let's say that even though they are a bank, they have a payment system and they are offering their payment system to some other banks to connect with them to provide a FedNow service. In that case, they are only required to have a participant profile. ACP is not required. And let's say that the same financial institution choose to play a correspondent, but they only agree to do the settlement services alone. They are not they're not in the FedNow network for sending and receiving the customer transfers. So there is no connection required at all. So obviously no profile is necessary for them. And if the financial institution chosen to play a service provider role, and they would want to directly connect with the FedNow, because they are already service provider, they may ask for other service provider to connect, but most likely it is not possible. It is not likely to happen. So they would obviously connect directly to the FedNow network, and in that case, they would only need an authorized connection profile. They would not need a participant profile, because we saw that earlier that authorized connection profile only handles the technical part of connectivity, because they, so in this case they are the service providers, they are only offering the connectivity to other banks, so they would need only the connection profile. So whichever the banks or any other small institutions, they are opting for this solution, they would need participant profile and also authorized connection profile here. And any service provider is actually basically a tech companies who would offer payment solutions that they are offering to connect with the FedNow service, right? So the service providers, they would directly connect with the FedNow service, so they would need an authorized connection profile.
This brings us to the end of the video. I hope these concepts are helpful and clear to you. We will continue to learn more about the payment systems in the upcoming videos together. I once again thank you for watching my video, and I wish something good comes to your life today. Bye for now.